look at it. I mean, she's just going to be incredible, incredible president of the foundation. And I know Laura, our amazing executive director of the foundation, is giving a report tonight. So you're going to get a lot of foundation news. So I'm just here really to thank all of you for everything you've done to support the foundation. The foundation has had 44 years of being the philanthropic partner of the college. And thanks to your leadership and the outstanding leadership of Dr. Martin, Laura, and the others on the team, the visibility of MATC continues to engage our community. In the past 7 years, the foundation has raised more than $28 million for student scholarships. That's compared to $4 million in the prior 7 years. That is incredible. Wow. Think of what that means for the college, for our students, for our employers, and for our overall community. It's just terrific. So individuals, companies, organizations have gotten behind the programs. All of you have helped to support the promise, the big one to kick everything off. And then this amazing Ellen and Joe Shakota full ride scholarship. Since last year, just about this time was when that scholarship was announced. And since that time, over 350 students have enrolled and gotten that full ride scholarship, and 150 students have already graduated and are out into the workforce. What incredible results in 1 year. So I just want to say, my husband, Frank Daly, who wishes he could be here because he's much better at talking than I am. He and I are both donors to the foundation because we have a lot of trust and confidence in the leadership here and in the programs here. And we know the impact MATC is having on our students and the well-being of our community. It gets the job done. MATC is personal to me. A lot of people in this room have heard this story, but my grandma was an instructor here for more than 20 years. And she was so proud of her school and all it accomplished. I too am very proud of her school and to serve on the foundation board and to make it our school. So thank you for your partnership. And if you haven't seen the magazine from the foundation, there's a stack of them here. This is our annual report. Many of you probably have gotten it, but it deserves to take another one and pass it along to your friends and family. So thank you so much. And thank you for everything you do to help the foundation be a great partner of the college.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And before you get out of that chair, let me just say thank you to you personally and your husband personally for all you've done, both as members of the foundation board and as contributors. You've made a big difference.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been our pleasure and a great source of pride for us.
Can we clap?
Yes. Next agenda item is approval of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes to approve. I'd like to invite a motion to approve all 3 of them at once, and then we'll see if there's any discussion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Director Mendieta Ramos and a second by Director Burris. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes for the regular board meeting of June 27, 2023? There being none, are there any comments or questions about the minutes for the special board meeting of June 30, 2023? Hearing none, are there any questions or comments about the board minutes for the organizational meeting of July 10, 2023? There being none, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Would all those in favor please indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion pass. The minutes are approved. Next, I'd like to take the same approach for the consent agenda items. I would invite a motion to approve them all, and then I'll ask if there are questions or comments about each one individually. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the consent agenda items.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments about the bills for June 2023? Director Baker.
Sure, I have one question in our human resource report. In the section on separations, we used to have a number of ways that we talked about separations, and it certainly helped me sort of take a look at why people left the college. There was retirement, resignation, termination, end of assignment, seasonal, whatever. This report, it either said resignation or it said separation. And the other classifications weren't there. And I was wondering why we changed, or was it intentional, or is this like a placeholder, or?
Yeah, it was intentional. We sent out a communication back earlier this year, I believe, to the board explaining why the report would show as it should be retirements and separations only, and that we would provide probably 3 times a year, each quarter, we would provide the percentage of reasons, but not have them be assigned to that specific person, but we would provide them by percentage. So in the next, I guess, 2 board meetings, you would see that in a graph format to show how many actual people were terminated from the college, how many people were laid off because of seasonal, whatever, we have those percentages.
I see, and privacy concerns? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the comment was that sometimes there's so few people in a given category that people could deduce who it was. And I think that was the motivating factor. Any other questions about the HR Human Resources report? Any other questions or comments about any of the other consent agenda items? Director Burris.
It was a procurement report. I was just curious whether or not faculty vetted these software that we will be changing over to see if it met their needs, or was it just like management IT?
President Martin, can you address that, or who could address that question?
Okay, Jeff, do you have any details on who
No,
participated?
just the information here. The digital badging, maybe Mohammed, are you familiar with how the process went with the digital badging anthology?
No, I don't know what the process, but we'll be glad to get back to you with more information.
My concern always, or again, sorry.
Go ahead.
My concern is sometimes we look at systems that we believe will help, us meet some of our goals. And then the people who directly using them say that it really did not help them meet their goals. I don't want to be a year down the line or something and everybody saying we purchased this or whatever, and it's not working for them, or it didn't have everything that they needed.
So the question is, can you give us a report on what involvement there was by either the faculty or administrators, whatever the case may be,
Students, like,
on the decision to vet, or on vetting this, or the decision to buy this rather than buy nothing or buy something else?
Maybe just one comment on if we're talking about the digital badging, the WTCS purchasing consortium. We went through them, so there's other schools in the WTCS system that are using this software. So we got, better pricing as a result of that, using the purchasing consortium. So that would, there were 2 purchases, so that was the one.
No, I seen it. It was just that something that works for somewhere else doesn't technically work for us, or may not work for us. So I was just curious as to who all was involved in the process of like vetting.
Good questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions about any of the consent agenda items? Questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion from Director Baker and a second from Director Mendieta Ramos. Would all those in favor of approving the consent agenda items indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. see, don't seem to have Director
More Omakundi.
more Omakundi on here anymore. Okay. Next agenda item is board action items. Resolution F0282-08-23 authorizing the sale of $27.5 million in general obligation promissory notes, series 2023-2024C of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I will move resolution F02820823.
Is there a second?
Okay, Bria seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Fisher, would you like to step up to the chair and tell us what happened, please?
Thank you for having me here today. So good news to share. We went out for bids.
First of all, just so everybody knows, this is Justin Fisher from Robert W. Baird. The younger, more handsome version of.
I like to think that.
Well, all right, maybe not.
And I've had the pleasure of working with the college for 15 years, my whole career, running the numbers, helping, John in many different capacities, also attending many of the meetings in the past. So I look forward to working with you for many years to come. So as I was kind of alluding to, there's a presentation packet that I'll quickly run through. Stop me at any point if you have any questions, but we went out for bid this morning and had great results. As you can see on page 2 of the presentation packet, the college received 11 bids from different underwriters throughout the country, with the winning bid from Luke Capital Markets at 3.18%. So, getting over 10 bids is a great sign. There's obviously a lot of interest in your financing when you go out to the market. And I think this shows that it was a very competitive process getting the interest rate that you received. On our last financing, we received a 3.16%. So pretty much right in line from what we received last month. And, as you hear in the market or in the news and so forth, interest rates are continuing to rise. And so it's good to see that you were able to get the same kind of interest rate from last month to this month. And, a lot of that has to do with the size of the borrowing being a little bit larger. So page 3, I won't go through this in a ton of detail, but general obligation promissory notes, series 2023-24C. This is going to be a financing that has maturities December 1, 2023 and June 1, 2024 to 2028. First interest payment, December 1, 2023. You did receive the AA1 bond credit rating, which is what you have received in the past. The rating report is in the back of the packet. It's basically the same that you've seen in prior packets. So if you've read them in the past, it's pretty much the same thing that you've read in the past. So again, winning bid was 3.18%. So congratulations.
Any questions for Mr. Fisher?
So pretty much
Jacob.
is actually the same wording. Did anything change in the wording?
This morning?
Yeah.
You're saying?
In the wording
Oh,
of
in the
the,
wording, no,
Thank you.
nothing changed
Thank you.
except just adding the final sale results.
Great. Okay, thanks.
that's a question you're going to get every month.
I'll be prepared.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We have a motion by Director Baker and a second by Director Burris. I think we need a roll call vote on this. Would you please take the roll call vote?
Director Burris.
Yeah.
Director Case. Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Moore Mokunde.
Aye.
Director Najib.
Aye.
Director Pence.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Fuller.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Next is resolution F0282-08-23, authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes, series 2023-2024D of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Director Mendieta Ramos?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Aye. Second.
Director Pence, thank you. All right. Jeff, Mr. Fisher, is there anything different about this?
No.
Okay, so for those of you who are new to the board, every month we authorize a sale of $1.5 million in bonds, which adds up to $18 million for the year. We have to authorize each sale individually. We can't do them in advance. And that means that Baird will take this to market next month and come back to us and tell us what the bids are. So are there any questions about what we're voting on here? What it's about, how it works? Seeing none, we have a motion from Director Mendieta Ramos and a second from Director Pence. We need a roll call vote. Would you please take the roll call?
Director Mendieta Ramos. Aye. Director Moore Omokunde.
Aye.
Director Najib.
Aye.
Director Pence.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Burris.
Aye.
Director Fuller.
I know she's not here, but you should ask about Director Case just in case.
Director Case.
Thank you. The motion passes. Next is monthly reports. I'm going to start with the chairman's report.
I think Chair follows President.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just received a response from our procurement manager about the two purchases. Faculty did review both of them and they met their needs, so they didn't go to RFP for this. They used the contract, they used the WTCS purchasing consortium to get leverage those contracts.
Thank you.
Also, the dean of online also texted me saying that we were engaged in the process as well.
That must be very important. People get back to y'all right away.
Thank you very much. Chairman's report. First of all, on behalf of the entire board, I want to welcome our students back and our faculty back for the fall semester. I hope they're all listening to this meeting. Second topic is board committee assignments. Surveys were sent out a couple of times asking what you might be interested in doing, and based on your responses, asking for volunteers and expressions of interest, I've made the following assignments for the 2023-24 year. Director Case will serve as the board liaison to the MATC Foundation. Director Baker will serve as the board representative to the MATC Legislative Task Force. Director Case, as the board treasurer, will also chair the Audit Advisory Committee and serve on the FCC OPEB Trust Committees. I will continue as the MATC Board of Directors designate to the Board of Directors of the District Boards Association for this next year. For those of you who are new, the 16 technical colleges are members of the Wisconsin Technical College District Boards Association. We refer to it as DBA for obvious reasons. It's a long name. That organization has its own board of directors, and the board of directors of each technical college designates a person to be on that board. The other thing about the organization, however, is that every member of every board of directors of the 16 technical colleges is automatically an individual member of the District Boards Association. You have the right to participate in their quarterly meetings. Those quarterly meetings always include presentations on Friday morning, usually, on topics of interest. We have had topics on accreditation, board policies, Robert's Rules of Order, all sorts of things in the past. You can participate in those in person or via Zoom. And I would encourage you to do so. In fact, I've been in this position for a number of years now, and it's very important, I think, that we show a continuous presence at the District Boards Association. And so I'm going to encourage you to participate in at least one meeting for sure. We'll circulate a schedule soon so that you get a sense of what it's about. There are 3 standing committees at the District Boards Association that do most of the daily work, if it's not really daily work, most of the work. One is a committee that deals with best practices for internal board procedures and college procedures. The second is a committee that works on external relationships, so fundraising, partnerships, apprenticeships, that sort of thing. And the third is unhappily called the Bylaws Committee. It exists, yes, to review the bylaws, but mostly to make sure that things that are proposed at the Board of Directors level are done consistently with what the bylaws require, or that can be, or to propose changes to the bylaws to make things that may be necessary. We did a complete rewrite of the bylaws last year, trying to bring them into the 20th century. And yes, I meant 20th century. And they're a little complicated, but I think you now, from what I've just said, understand pretty much all you really need to participate. The district board's executive director, Layla Merrifield, will be attending our November board meeting here to explain in more detail the important work that the District Boards Association does, including leading the development of agendas for the year for both policy and financial asks of the state legislature, and then of organizing meetings between us and our representatives at the state legislature to talk to them about our needs and why they should support them. The next District Boards Association meeting is October 26th to 27th. There's the 26th is a Friday. That is the date of the educational programs. There is also a dinner the night before, which is optional. It's a great place to meet the other district board association, board of directors members, and the board of directors meeting itself for the DBA is usually held on Saturday mornings. It's in Pewaukee this year, as it always is in October, and the topic is legal developments, as it always is in October. So there are presentations. Usually it's from about 3 law firms that regularly advise school boards and school districts about the legal environment. For those of you who do not keep up on such things on a daily basis, you'd learn a lot, and I think it would help you a lot to participate in that program in particular. It affects what we do and also what we do not do. And it's important that you understand that. I think you've probably, the new members of the board have probably received some of that in the orientation you've had already, but there are lots of legal issues. There is also an organization called the American Community College Trustees, ACCT, which is a national organization trying to do the same sorts of educational things and lobbying for favorable policies and funding at the national level. Their annual meeting is something we usually send someone to, usually more than one someone. And one of the reasons for that is because to be on the board of directors there or to be involved on a regional level, you have to be elected by the technical and community colleges within that region. And because of our size, we get 2 votes. So if there's a local candidate that is a Wisconsin board of directors member who wants to be heard at that level, they will complain loudly if we have no one there to support them, which I think is appropriate. So that's October 9th through 12th. It's in Las Vegas. If there's any chance that you could get there, it would be a good idea to do that because neither I nor the vice chair are available that particular weekend. So we'd really like a volunteer to go. The expenses are covered by the MATC budget. For future planning, there's also the ACCT National Legislative Summit, February 4th through 7th, 2024 in Washington, D.C. You go to that meeting to hear about the policies and the budget requests that the association is promoting, and then you go meet with our congressmen and senators or their staffs to talk about those things and the importance to our college. Next, I want to talk a little bit about committee structure of this board and ad hoc committees and retreats. Some years ago, we went from having 3 standing committees, permanent standing committees, to operating as a committee of the whole. The bylaws authorize the chair to create and appoint and set the agenda for ad hoc committees as needed. We don't have any right now. sometimes the topics that are suggested for ad hoc committees are actually great topics for board retreats. We typically have a half-day retreat in the fall and a half-day retreat in the spring, and longer if you wish, but that's the usual setup. So I'm going to ask you to tell me before our next board meeting if there are specific topics that you think we need to have a committee meet repeatedly and drill down on to address issues of particular importance to you or particular importance to the college. And we'll also discuss when we see that list whether it's a topic that we need to deal with on a retreat rather than on a committee basis. We have some suggestions already. I'm just going to put those out there. Nothing's decided yet. We do a policy review on a recurring basis. Every 4 years, we try to get through all of our policies, all of the school's policies, and this is related to accreditation requirements. We just finished a review of the subset of policies that details how this board operates. The next set of policies has to do with how this board delegates authority to the president and to others. So we will have a committee look at those sometime in this next fiscal year or in this fiscal year. Second, we adopted and are in year 7 of the guided pathways implementation. Is that right? Of a 10-year program. And when we adopted the plan to implement it and the successor programs that come from it, we said that we would take a deep breath at some point and ask ourselves, is this working? And if not, what do we need to do to tweak it and make it work? We're 7 years into it. I think it may be time to ask that question in detail and drill down on the results of that program. Right-sizing the college for new FTE levels is another potential topic. Looking deeply at enrollment, retention, and completion, and what we might do to improve each of those. We have talked about creating a more comprehensive board of directors new member onboarding program, talking about policies, a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order. I believe you did get some instruction on budgeting and to take a look at what we're doing for new members or board education on an ongoing basis. So I'm going to ask Beth Schultz to send out a survey about this in the next couple of days, and I would appreciate if you would respond to it at least with, yes, I've got it, and I have nothing to say, but hopefully with some suggestions for moving forward. At the new board member orientation held last Friday, one of you suggested that the board MATC emails have a common signature format. Beth will be sending that out to you later this week. It will have the MATC logo, your name, your position as a board director, and the email address and phone number that you choose to use for board-related communications. That will include your matc.edu address. If you want another one used, I suggest you put it there as well. At your seat, you will find a schedule of, in your folder, you will find a schedule of board agenda items for the year. Looks like this. And this is to show you what is coming up in the next board meetings. Most of the things we deal with occur at about the same time each year. And they're spread out so that we don't have 1 or 2 meetings that take 10 hours apiece, but rather can deal with all of the recurring issues. That should help you prepare for these meetings. And in your paper packet, you will also find some things that need to be signed by you as a board member. One is there is something called the broadcast questionnaire. We hold the license for Milwaukee Public Television, and the Federal Communications Commission requires that we, as the controlling individuals, certify certain facts to be true or not true. Let's see. The next is a child and adult care food program. I'm not sure what that one's about. Beth, can you tell us what that one's for?
Our childcare program gets some government.
Oh, yes. Okay. This one has to be signed so that we can continue to get support from the federal government for our food programs. Next, there's one more thing, and that is that I told you we revised and reviewed our board policies in the last year. Policy A0106-2 is attached to your agenda. It should be in your packet. It requires that we sign a conflict of interest form each year, certifying that we've thought about it and we don't have any conflicts of interest. We've had the policy for a long time, but we just never required anybody to actually sign off on it in the past. So you have 3 things in your packet that you should sign. Our preference would be that they be signed and returned to Beth today, but we'd like to get them this week one way or the other. Last, in the next day or so, I will be issuing an invitation to each member of the board for themselves and their spouse or significant other for an informal social event. I'm holding the event because with all the new members that we have, either returning or absolutely new, who have 1 year or less of experience on the board, I think it's important that we, for good board functioning, get to know each other as individuals, and that will enable us to work better. As a social event, purely social event, there will be no board agenda, there will be no business agenda. And in order to comply with the open meetings requirements, we will not permit any discussion of MATC business or business that may come before the board, and anyone who starts such a discussion will be asked to stop or leave. Please don't put me in the position of asking you to leave something I just invited you to. That is the end of my report. Next.
Entertain questions.
Sure. Questions?
I got one.
Anyone other than Director Baker have a question? Go ahead.
Are these things that in the future we can get electronically? The signature things, are these things that in the future, or are these things that we will always do by hand?
No, we usually get this one electronically.
That's what I thought. We get the broadcast. Because in the past, I know we got that one electronically.
I got it electronically when I joined. I got it electronically. I already signed it completely.
You did all
You
that on
did.
Friday.
Well, yeah, and it's attached to the agenda, I think, that sheet, but I can send it separately, because we get that one sheet to sign. That makes sense.
Are you saying like a DocuSign thing?
No, I mean, I can put a signature in a document. I mean, I will do all this now. I'm just saying in the future, it would be nice that maybe we get them electronically. Never mind. It's kind of not worth a big discussion.
Just in advance, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great, thanks. Next is the president's report. Dr. Martin.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry,
sorry.
I had my hand up. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, I just wanted to schedule a time that I could come in and sign those documents before the week is done. And I also want to know if we had any other action items left.
We have no other action items. Thank you. And Beth will be in contact with you about arranging a time for the signatures.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll sign off in a few minutes. Then. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, Chair Foley, board members, welcome new board members. It's good to have you here. It's great to see all the students in the hallways. The energy is back with the faculty also coming back after a nice long summer. I can tell that it definitely is the start of the semester because someone is also in my parking spot. So I just noticed that's how I'm like, yes, it's time for classes to start again because someone is in my spot every day. It's all good. It's all good. It's just great to have students here. And so you probably saw me in a different spot today. That's fine.
I just saw your spot open. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna take it.
I did the exact same thing.
Well, a student took it. It's all good. So it was so great to have Julie Eber here on behalf of the MATC Foundation. She just has been such a great supporter of us over the years, beginning with our Promise program. She actually had given a scholarship on behalf of her grandmother, who she said taught here in our community ed program. So it just is wonderful to hear her today talk about the Shakota Scholarship. Joe and Ellen, MATC scholarship. And she mentioned some numbers, and we just heard yesterday from one of our folks who deals with this every day, Sarah Cappert, that we, as of yesterday, had 457 students who qualified for this semester. So that is really great news. So we're getting close to having that 1,000 number of students in that program. So it's really great. Thanks to Laura Bray and her team for all their work, as well as our foundation, but also to Sarah Cappert and her team, who's worked with student services and with Sarah Adams, who you're going to hear from soon, and Nicole Tanner, and all the other people in our student services area, as well as our FAST Fund and others, to ensure that students get enrolled, that we have the numbers that we need for our enrollments. Sarah's also responsible for all of our promise programs and for our debt relief programs and Restart and Reconnect, which will really help our students to continue on their journeys here at the college. At this time, we have someone new I'd like to introduce you to, our Executive Vice President of Student Success, Dr. Philip King. Dr. King comes to us from Shoreline Community College in Washington, where he led major initiatives that are near and dear to us, such as strategic enrollment management, guided pathways redesign, accreditation, developmental education redesign, governance, strategic leadership, and communication, just to name a few. So, Dr. King, would you come and join us here and introduce yourself to the board?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Afternoon.
And just a couple of comments. I think in my ending 6th week, I think I've lost count. It's been kind of a whirlwind getting here, of being present, being in lots of meetings, getting to know a lot of people, but very excited to have joined MATC. I think a very warm welcome from all the staff that have been here, as well as meeting faculty and students. And just excited about the resources. I think I met, and I was talking with Lauren earlier, in observation. I've worked in community colleges now for almost 30 years, almost a little more, 33. I've worked at universities, large universities, small public, small private. I came back to the community college on purpose. I'm a community college graduate, first generation student, and I was raised in the Bay Area, but finished high school in a small town on the way to the mountain in Oregon. So I kind of know big, I know small, and community colleges spoke to me because they're a place where I think people can come and get educated, if no matter what it is you want access to. You don't have enough money, or if you want a variety of programs. So I keep coming back to them, and MATC was high on my list when I was looking for position opportunities. And I'm excited to be here. I hope to learn more as I work with all those that are here, as well as the board in the future. So thank you for the introduction. I look forward to working with all of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And now I'd like to invite Dr. Christine Mannion, our Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness, to come and to the table and update the board on our recent accreditation. Very successful, wonderfully organized and led accreditation visit.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Recent is probably the strange word, because for those of you who are new, who are not here, but those of you who remember, this happened in March and April last spring, and we just received our formal notification on July 21st. And that was nothing to do with anything we were doing, just a little bit of backlog there at HLC. So we're very excited that we got the official notification that the team report for Milwaukee Area Technical College was accepted by the Institutional Actions Council of the HLC. Spoiler alert, the report was really good. So we're really proud of all the teams that worked so hard to get ready for it. And I just wanted to point out a couple of the highlights that they mentioned that I think we should feel really good about. They mentioned that our mission is clear, easily remembered, articulated. They saw it everywhere, and it absolutely guides our operations and our resource allocations. MATC acts with integrity in its financial, academic, and human resource functions. MATC values academic freedom and freedom of expression. MATC provides quality education through its main campus, branch locations, and online delivery modalities. The college provides robust student support services tailored to the needs of its students and aligns with the We Care standards. There's ample evidence that MATC ensures the quality of its educational offerings by remaining in compliance with WTC and HLC standards. MATC engages in ongoing assessment of student learning as part of its commitment to the educational outcomes of its students at the course, program, and institutional levels. And although a very large, complex organization, the institution is well organized and has the resources in terms of physical, plant, technology, and human resources necessary to effectively utilize its processes and procedures to fulfill its mission and transform the lives of its students and community. So congratulations to everyone involved, and thank you very much for your support and whatever, and all the help that you offered as well along the way with Dr. Martin in particular. Thank you.
So for the new board members, would you just talk about why accreditation is so important? Right.
Sure.
And to other institutions who are accredited.
Right, so
The one every 10 years.
yes, you were paying attention during the orientation. Yes, your gold star. Yes, we are, accreditation is so important because it really is our commitment to our community that we have a quality education. There's an objective third-party review of that. The Higher Learning Commission is an agency that's acting on behalf of the Department of Education. And they have criteria and standards by which we have to tell a story and demonstrate how we match those criteria and standards. It's very important in terms of not just that the piece of paper that our students get means something and it's of value to our community, our industry partners, but it also allows our students to be eligible for financial aid. So that's probably the biggest, piece of it. And so this is really one of the first times that they, at the midterm point or at the end of a regular 10-year cycle, we are at the midterm point here. They can ask for interim reports or they can ask to come back and see us again. And this time they said, no, you're doing fine, stay the course and we'll see you in 5 years. So that's the first time we've received that in many cycles.
Yes, and I think they went a little bit beyond that. And said this was one of the best visits that they had ever been on. And the chair had been doing them for how many years? How many visits had he done?
I don't remember, but it was something
Like
absurd.
1,000.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was really, he's been doing this a really, really long time and he was really impressed with everyone he met, with the facilities, the people that attended all the forums and the open discussions. And they were very impressed with everyone involved.
Right, and we have a number of people in this room who were part of that, and I see them here, and so I have to say,
everybody
just about everybody
All
here.
of them.
A perfume. But I mean, I was just really impressed and really proud of how everyone responded to all of the questions, and they were tough questions,
Yes.
but to really did demonstrate the quality of what we offer here at this college, so. that's
And
really
They
great.
did have staff forum and because the staff and faculty aren't necessarily here, but they had individual forums with those groups as well. And I'm really impressed by everyone they met.
How does this get messaged to everyone in the school and outside the school for what you've accomplished?
Good question. Well, so for the midterm, we usually just kind of fly under the radar and usually celebrate at the reaffirmation term at the end of the 10-year mark. But we were just talking to Tony about, and I think you mentioned it in your coordination day remarks. So we did announce it in that way. And now that we have it all official and it's been and it's been here, we'll have it in the week ahead as a reminder and we'll link it to the report in case people really want to nerd out and read the entire report. They're welcome to. As are you as well.
That was my question. Does the board get a copy of the report?
Do we get a copy of the report?
You can absolutely have a copy of the report.
I think you should send us a copy of the report.
I will send you a copy of the
Thank you.
report.
And again, just thank you to everybody in the room that worked on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Mannion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And kudos to her, she led the whole process and did a magnificent job.
Thank you.
Would also like to mention that because of the debates tomorrow, we will be closed at this campus. We'll have some essential workers here, but classes will be either virtual or someplace else. And the staff will be at another campus because we just want to make sure that, traffic and all the other things that are going to happen. And then just the last thing, something really fun. There's a fashion showcase that was held on Thursday, July 27th. It's a runway show. It was really great to see the students put on all the makeup and the design, the clothes and costumes. This is part of the cosmetology advanced style class. Thanks to Tracy Dorn and all the department's instructors for their work to help students put on this amazing show. The families were there. It was really a lot of fun. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Dr. Martin? Great, thank you. Next is Ava Martinez Paulos, our Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with the DEI report.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion has been very busy over the summer. I have a couple of updates related to some of the student activities that are taking place under the DEI function at MATC. For example, on August 4th, the HSI team hosted over 100 new and continuing students and their families at the downtown campus for an orientation. So total, we had over 200 students and families for the first annual Somos MATC orientation. So the first one ever, one of the largest orientations at MATC. The event brought together a handful of resources. We had a resource fairs for all the family members, bilingual resources as well in English and Spanish. And it was a wonderful event to be there and welcoming the families. We had the entire family for many of our students, the siblings, the mother, the father, the guardian. So it was just a wonderful event to be able to connect the particular community to MATC. These orientation events are really critical, not only to get students in the door at MATC and welcoming them, but they're also critical because we have efforts to continue to connect and support the students throughout their journey at MATC. Also on August 14th, we hosted the first annual Fall Asian Student Orientation. We hosted about 90 students downtown in room 605. And it was also another very successful event because at these events, we are not only bringing students to meet the team from different locations and different departments. We also have their schedules available. We have their IDs available too that we can walk them over to. And just a wonderful wealth of resources for the students. The goal for these orientations are for the students to come in and be able to walk out of MATC with everything that they need to begin their journey, whether that is going to the bookstore, getting their IDs, or getting the registration information. For our first annual Fall Asian Student Orientation, I would like to thank our student services specialists, Dervang and Dao Van, who coordinated a very successful event. Also, the Office of Student Accommodations and Interpreting Services hosted their Jumpstart events at the beginning of August. So they welcome a handful of students and their families. And the Jumpstart events are really designed to support students with disabilities. As of today, the office continues to move the needle to serve the needs of students with diverse abilities and disabilities. And we have 450 students signed up in the office to receive services, which is amazing. The Multicultural Student Affairs Office will be hosting their Welcome Back events beginning of September to ensure the students have everything that they need to successfully continue their journey at MATC. And we will also be hosting, and I am really proud to say this, that we will be hosting our first annual African American Student Orientation at MATC. This is the first of its kind, and it will be taking place on Monday, August 18th. I'm sorry, it will be taking place on September 18th. I said August. As you can see, we have been extremely busy in the office, and it has been a wonderful experience, not only for the students, but also for the team. The division of DEI continues to grow. So for example, in the last couple of weeks, we welcome 2 full-time student services specialists who are bilingual and are ready to continue to meet the needs of refugee and immigrant students at MATC. Lastly, this Sunday, on August 26th, MATC administrators and staff will be at Mexican Fiesta to assist in awarding 52 scholarships to MATC students. This is a collaboration between the Brewers Foundation, the LULAC Foundation, and also the MATC Foundation. This is a really great event. It engages the Milwaukee community, but it also allows us to go into the Mexican Fiesta atmosphere and be able to meet the community as well. Again, we have 52 MATC students receiving scholarships on Sunday, which is a great event. All of these events really contribute to student success and ensuring that our students feel a sense of belonging and that they feel at home at MATC as they're coming into our campuses in different locations. It is important for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion that our students feel a sense of belonging because we know that that is critical to their success and their journey. These are my updates. Thank you, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Just said that 450 students signed up. Is it students with disabilities?
Yes. For our Office of Accommodations and Interpreting Services, we have 452 as of today and counting. So these are the students that will be receiving services through that office throughout their journey here.
That's tremendous work, really,
Yes,
with
it
like students.
Absolutely. And we have an amazing team of about 18 disability specialists, coordinators, administrative assistant, and a director.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Next is the enrollment report. Sarah Adams, please. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I did send you a report in advance, and I'm happy to say, since I've sent the report, we are now up to 3,570 FTEs for the fall, bring us within 90.4% of our goal for fall. We still have classes for our 12-week classes, 8-week classes, additional classes, and we've been very busy these last 2 days with students coming in and registering for additional classes. We did have an event August 5th where we invited new students in that had completed all of their preliminary admissions information and they were just ready to register. We invited students in and we had over 270 students actually show up on a Saturday for about 10 to 2. And the students were excited. I mean, this is almost one of the first times we've been able to do this type of event since COVID. And students were really excited to be on campus. I think Dr. King had been here maybe 3 weeks by that time, and he showed up that Saturday and we pressed him into service to work with the students. So he got a really hands-on experience working with students. And out of those students, we had over 125 students that actually registered for classes that day, and others came in that Monday to continue the registration process. Where we're at right now, we're within 380 FTE of our fall goal. So that's 9.6%. And our continuing students, in comparison to last fall at this time, the number is up about 6.5% of our continuing students. Our new students are up 7.6% over last fall. And then our returning students are up 4.4% over last fall. And our returning students are students that have been out for at least one semester, and that's the difference between our continuing and our returning students. I will provide you with a more detailed report once we kind of settle a little bit more down with registration, but right now we're still seeing students coming in and registering for classes. They're still receiving advising services and things like that. And our pathway offices have been having orientations for their students. So they can come in, they can see where things are. They're able to go to their rooms and just to meet faculty and staff in the area. So right now, we've really been doing a lot to introduce the students to the campus and to make sure that they know what's going on, where things are located, and to make sure that they're comfortable while they're here. We have welcome tables and things like that to answer their questions while they're in the hall because they're getting a little lost. We have quite a bit of construction going on. So we want to make sure that they get to their classrooms. Are there any specific questions you may have?
Is there a deadline for the enrollment?
Well, we allow students to register up to about a week into the class. And after that point, they really have to have instructor permission. So this week is pretty good for students to continue to enroll. But we also have 12-week classes starting, so they can enroll now for classes that have not started yet.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the Milwaukee PBS General Manager's Report, Debbie Hamlet.
Good afternoon.
I,
In my short 10 weeks here, feels like 6 months in a good way, in a good way. I've learned many new processes and procedures, as well as having met almost every team member. I felt it was really important to spend my first few weeks hearing the concerns, ideas, and thoughts of each staff member. Those meetings have done amazing things for me, helping me understand where they've been and to also be able to talk with them about where we would be going. July was an outstanding month for fundraising, having ended the month at $466,114, which is $118,000 more than last July. So we're off to a great start for the new fiscal year. The Milwaukee PBS 65th anniversary exhibit has had more than 300 guests and will close the first week of September. Our anniversary year ends in October, first part of October, with a retrospective program to broadcast on October 7th at 7:30, which we're currently working on. It's in editing next week. We'll soon welcome hundreds of people to tour the station as we participate in Open Doors Gallery on September 23rd from 9 to 5. I'm told that last year we had 800 people come through. So we have all hands on deck for that event. We announced this morning that Main Streets with John McGiven will be starting on Milwaukee PBS on October 5th, to the delight of many fans and viewers. It's been a busy summer with lakefront concerts produced completely by MATC students. There's a total of 8 concerts. Tomorrow is our last concert, so if you haven't had a chance, I'd encourage you to go hear some great music, take a fan with you and some water. We'll be broadcasting a best of program of these concerts in early 2024. The National Association of Black Journalists Salute to Excellence Awards recognized Milwaukee PBS program Black Nouveau has been in production for 31 years for a segment called Enslaved, Indentured, Free, a deep look at slavery in Prairie du Chien during the 1800s. Children's Writers Contest winners from kindergarten through 3rd grade will be in the building for a cookie reception and viewing on September 13th at 6:30. These are stories that they send in and we put them to music, have voiceover, have their pictures. So it's a television program with their stories. We will rebroadcast the basketball championship game on Saturday, October 14th at 10 p.m. And many people drive past the home of the Milwaukee Brewers and notice what looks like a haunted mansion in the distance, but have no idea what it is. It's a huge part of American history, the birthplace of veterans' healthcare. Its story will be told on Milwaukee PBS in an upcoming documentary called A Hallowed Home for Heroes. The Milwaukee Soldiers' Home is a national historic landmark with origins that trace back to President Abraham Lincoln's last legislative act. This will air on November 6th at 8 p.m. Lastly, Adelante is our program which celebrates the rich heritage of Latino people in its 24th season and airs in Spanish with English subtitles. They will have a special on Jesus Salas, who taught bilingual skills at MATC for 2 decades and has spent a lifetime advocating for migrant farm workers. It'll air on October 26th at 7:30. This concludes my report. Thank you so much. I will entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions? There being none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the Legislative Matters Report, Laura Bray.
We're actually going to turn it over to Rainey, who's here to present. And there's a report in front of you that's just a 1 page. That's a write-up of both state and federal happening. Rainey?
Great, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Director Foley and members of the board. I look forward to meeting all of the new members soon. Very briefly, just a little bit about myself. Rami Zelenkova, I'm a partner at Hubbard Wilson and Zelenkova. I provide legislative advocacy services to the college, and I've been working with the college for a number of years. And professionally, I have been providing legislative advocacy services for 20 years now. So I work closely with the college on MATC specific projects, but also very closely with the District Boards Association on legislative matters that impact all colleges. So this evening, as Laura mentioned, there should be a one-pager in front of you with some highlights. August is always a very quiet month for the legislature, so we'll be coming back into fall session here in just a couple of weeks. And also, if it's not in front of you, we can get that to you, but I wanted to provide an overview of financial aid. Laura, I don't know if that's in front of the board this evening, but we can get that to you. There is going to be a proposal moving through the legislature this fall, an effort that was worked on with both the technical college system and the UW system in response to FAFSA simplification, which has been signed into law at the federal level. And so at the state level here, a number of technical changes need to be made in response, but it also provides an opportunity for updates to Wisconsin grant programs, et cetera. So it's a very meaty bill, but the good news is it's bipartisan, and it has had feedback from both the technical college system and UW system as well. And I expect a hearing here in just a couple of weeks. So again, we can provide that information to all of you so you're aware that this is moving through the process. But that will be one item that of course we'll be engaged in for the fall session. Also, I do expect, nothing has circulated yet, but I do expect another reaction to what's happened at the federal level, which will trickle down now to the state level as a result to the Supreme Court case on race in college admissions. Republican leadership in the legislature have indicated that they want to review currently what's on the books now and consider legislation to repeal anything that they would identify as at odds with that Supreme Court decision. We do have divided government. And so I think, it's fair to say that the governor will probably look at that a little bit differently, but that'll be another item that, again, nothing's been released yet, but I expect the fall session will have some traction in the legislature on an item such as that. I also just wanted to mention this evening that the governor has called a special session. For those of you who are new to the board or less familiar with the legislative process, when a governor calls a special session, the legislature is not compelled to respond or act on that special session call. In the governor's call, there are a lot of very positive things for higher education, including additional funding for the technical college system, but also a very substantial investment in workforce initiatives to help individuals either, receive additional training, certification, et cetera, in some high needs area, particularly for educator pipeline, but also in the healthcare space as well. In addition to general aid for the technical college system and additional dollars for Wisconsin grants. Much of this mirrored what the governor included in his budget recommendation, which the legislature did not approve. And so he has called for a special session again next month for the legislature to consider these items. So again, very positive for, our students and for the technical college system, although I don't believe that the legislature will act on the call. So we'll see some headlines on that over the next few weeks, but I don't expect the legislature to take up that issue in September. So that's a very high level overview. Again, I look forward to meeting the new board members in person, and I am available for any questions.
Any questions? Rami, would you talk a little bit about the public broadcasting budget item, please?
So public broadcasting as well as just general funding for higher education was completely, public broadcasting funding was completely eliminated at the federal level by the House. It is early into the process. Debbie and I and Dr. Martin and Laura, we've all been on, email chains having discussions about how we want to respond at this point in the process. Not to put Debbie on the spot, but I know she's in the room. And so we've communicated about the timing and the talking points so that we can work with our partners on how we want to communicate with our elected officials, how this would be devastating for public broadcasting, for Milwaukee. Right now, some of our partners have, of course, also suggested, which, is always a good idea, no matter the timing or the issue, but, important to bring elected officials to the college, speak to them about, how this is negatively impacting, assuming it gets further down the road. So Debbie, I don't know if you have anything to add there. I'm fresh off vacation, first day back, so something may have happened
I don't
over
have
the next
anything-
2 weeks, but
Nothing new to add. She noted that there was nothing new to add. I don't know if you heard that, Remy.
thank you.
We've seen this before. The House has voted a few times to cut off all funding for public broadcasting. I would encourage you to communicate with your federal representatives, wherever you happen to live, about this. And we can help educate you about some of the things that public television does that most people don't know about. There is a public television channel, if you will, streaming channel, which is all children's programming all day, 24/7. And it's designed to be used by children who are in hospitals or who are not attending school, homeschoolers, children who are ill or have disabilities. That would go away. The efforts to find private funding for such programming have always failed. There's not enough profit in it, and it's expensive to do. The public television system has an interconnect that connects all of the public television stations in the country with high-speed fiber cable, which is being developed by the public TV stations into a first responder support system. So there are TV stations that are creating systems for the local police departments whereby they can get the building plans for any building where an incident is occurring and get it over the air instantly. There are all sorts of things that public television uses its broadcast media for. When you get that ugly sound on your TV, talking about whether that is actually on the public television spectrum and is picked up by the local television stations and the national broadcasters. And of course, the whole NewsHour, public PBS NewsHour programming is funded from these federal dollars and by money that the individual TV stations pay to essentially subscribe to programming. But the system would not survive without federal funding. So I'd encourage you to educate yourself about it, and we can help and make some communications. Yes, Doc.
How much is the federal funding percentage-wise from the public broadcasting fund need?
Are you talking about the overall system or Milwaukee? Debbie, do you have that information?
I do not.
I can share that. I believe, and I want to verify this, but I believe if they were eliminating the funding completely, it was just over $500 million. Now that would be across the entire program. So we'd have to find out the specific cut to Milwaukee and what that would mean.
I would be happy to send that as
It
a
would be
follow-up.
helpful to see it, because they might go ahead with it, so we need to see alternative sources too.
There aren't.
There aren't.
Yeah. I will send that information along with the things that you might not know about PBS and what happens behind TV, the educational kinds of things, and things that you were referring to in terms of providing maps and say cell coverage is the first thing that goes down. And so our broadcast towers would provide information for first responders to be able to access buildings and areas that may not be reached otherwise. So I'll send follow-up information on
Yeah,
that.
it will help if we wanna contact our representative, we need those information.
Absolutely. I'll send that.
Get some talking points.
And can I add, I believe this is still true that Milwaukee Public Television isn't just Milwaukee. We are actually public television for about 50% of the state users. Is that correct?
Southeastern, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's a
it's
big
the
footprint.
southeastern territory, but it's about 50% of the total
Viewership.
viewership.
Right.
I think is the correct number.
I'll get those numbers too. Any other-
So I have something not on public television, but still on the legislative.
Sure.
So, and I don't know if who I'm directing the question to, but in years past, we would sometimes bring legislators in and we'd have these legislative breakfasts. We'd have some board members, some staff, some administrators, we have like this wonderful college to show off. And we're nodding and going like this, like we are planning on doing something like that.
Part of it has just been in COVID. We did, I think, one session where it was virtual, or one or two. I think it may have been two. So we're just going to be looking at the academic year and figuring out the best timing.
Great.
So I'll be working with Rainey in the next time the legislative task force meets. We'll have an update on that.
Good point. Thank you.
Any other questions on the legislative report? There being none, thank you, and we'll move on. Next. Ramey, thank you.
Thank you.
And next is the advisory audit report. Dr. Mannion, are you up?
Sure.
Or
Yeah, you have your case even here, so how, I have the notes.
if you would, please.
I had to read off my phone, I apologize. But, so, I will be removing my HLC hat. Now I'm here because the Office of the Internal Audit reports to institutional effectiveness. And so I'm just going to provide the overview meeting that occurred. So Dr. Martin and Dr. Case and I were all there. The Advisory Audit Committee met on Thursday, August 10th. An internal audit update was then provided by the Manager of Internal Audit, Brian Kubik. He walked through the status. This was the first meeting of the new fiscal year. So he walked through the status of the FY 2024 plan and noted other activities that internal audit has been participating in during the fiscal year. He provided several draft findings from a current compensation review of faculty stipend and Zansel. And Zansel is the word we use to describe payment to faculty for work done outside the classroom. So additional work that is done. And it was noted that at this time, final discussions and action plans are still being created by a cross-functional team regarding this review. He then walked through the committee through the audit follow-up report, noting that 3 action plans have been completed since the prior meeting. Sharing information on the internal audits governance and leadership survey, as well as a customer satisfaction survey. He also noticed that the internal auditors, a governing internal auditors 2A, not sure what that is. The governing body for professional internal audit was updating its professional standards, and a final version will be expected by year end. So the committee has met its charter requirements for FY 2023 and through the first month of FY 2024, and they'll be meeting again in November. But we can provide you a more thorough, detailed written report after this.
I just want to point out that very often in the corporate world, when you hear the phrase audit committee, it's talking about a financial audit committee. This committee does look at some financial issues, but also looks at whether things we are doing or supposed to be doing within the college are happening, are having the intended results, and the action plans that we're talking about are recommendations to improve that performance if shortcomings are found. And so for those of you on the board who have postgraduate financial degrees, you'll find it boring, but the rest of us will find it more interesting than if it were just about financial information, I suspect. Are there any questions for Dr. Manion wearing the institutional effectiveness hat?
Yes, and actually, our internal auditor is here, Dr. Brian. Brian, could we- oh, sorry. He's also.
So was there any serious like internal audit during the internal audit, anything serious we need to know about?
In terms of this one, not sure.
What were the 3 action plans that you
Yeah,
mentioned?
Brian, do you want to provide any more details? On the 3 action plans?
Those are like room for improvement, we know about it.
Good evening, everyone. I guess in terms of action plans, as Christine. had
Can you
mentioned-
be a little louder, please?
Sure. In terms of action plans, as Christine had mentioned, those haven't been worked through yet. These were draft findings. So we'll be working with a cross-sectional team from academics, from digging down deeper, from scheduling, from finance, including payroll, from human resources, IT, many different departments involved. In terms of some of the findings, a lot of it is, I don't know, as Director Foley just mentioned, looking at, I kind of took your words and said, we say what we're going to do. Are we doing what we say? So we've got Zancel payments and stipend payments. One of the findings was we haven't really clearly defined what those are. So one of the things we'll be recommending and working through with that group is, let's define this so we don't have gray areas, since this accounts for a significant amount of money. We still have to develop standard operating procedures. There was some overlap in language with these 2 types of payments, or specifically Zancel's, and what's included in the faculty job description and the expectations that are included in the employee handbook. So we've got to add some clarity to the language in terms of what's an employment expectation and what's extra and additional outside of the classroom. Those are some of the primary ones that were noted.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you both.
I would like to hear the progress on those action plans.
Oh, absolutely.
Next is the OPEB and FCC trust report. Mr. Hollow.
Good afternoon. At your place, you would have a report. It's the 2-page Yes, that is. Okay. So every quarter, we get an update, we get information from our financial advisors. PFM is the financial advisor. And we have 2 trusts. We have the FCC trust and we have an OPEB trust. OPEB is other post-employment benefits. And just very quickly,
which page are on now?
I haven't, I'm just kind of explaining it, but I'll go through one. The OPEB trust basically is we have an outstanding liability. We have other, OPEB stands for other post-employment benefits. There are employees who received other post-employment benefits and are eligible for those benefits. It's a future liability, a current liability and a future liability. And so what was happened many years ago is there was this OPEB trust was set up to help fund the future liability and close the gap. So that's what that trust is for, just to explain. And I think all of you understand what the FCC trust is. So the first page I have is the Spectrum, they call it the MATC Spectrum Trust, and it's a portfolio summary. On the left-hand side, it shows the asset allocation in numbers. And then down below, it has a graphical allocation of the fund. At the end of the quarter, the total value of the trust was $102,403,759. And you can see the breakdown of that. On the right-hand side, we show the performance summary. So the blue graph is the blended benchmark. That is how the average or the average investment would have performed during the first quarter. And the beige, that's the actual performance. So we had a trust meeting, and you can see that the actual performance is lagging the benchmark. That's how we measure how we're doing. So in this situation, so we had, you know, we've had periods where we've had the performance exceed the benchmark, but you can see clearly that we did not have the performance of the investment advisor did not meet the benchmarks. I did ask the question in the meeting, in the meeting with PFM. I asked them, can you explain? Because I said, I'm going to have to explain to the board why the performance is lagging. And one of the things that they mentioned is back in April, May timeframe, the domestic, they have a, you know, they're fairly heavily weighted in domestic equity. And they had, there was the banking crisis that we heard, the brief banking crisis that, well, it's still a bit of a crisis. The investments are still down. But in the April, May timeframe, those certain banks that they held declined. And they have since in June divested of those banking assets. But that was their explanation to me as to why they lagged the benchmark. And you can see down below in the lower right-hand quadrant, you can see the quarter ended. You can see the beginning value. You can see the net cash flows. The net cash flows on the left-hand side for the quarter. Basically, the fees that were paid for the 3 months, and the dollar return and the ending market value. I just pause to see if there's any questions.
I have a question.
Director Mangiata, right to us.
If I'm understanding this correctly, it hasn't been performing since 2017. Correct?
Yes, yes.
And they are attributing that to the recent banking crisis?
No. So they primarily it was the quarter and possibly the first, you know, the 1 year, looking 1 year back. But there was, when we first started this trust, Baird was our investment advisor, and we did do an RFP, and PFM beat them out in the you know, so PFM is our investment advisor, has been our investment advisor, and they started, boy, I don't see it. Typically they have their date in here, what they started, but I think it was January of might have been 2020, 2019 or 2020. So I can get that information if you'd like it, but and it took them a little bit to get their feet underneath them, but they're still, you know, you can see they're not performing well. The contract is up at the end of this year, and we are doing an RFP. Actually, the entire WTCS system is doing an RFP for this, so we'll leverage that information and see what comes up of that. So we definitely will have an opportunity to make it change or possibly keep the same. But I think I would like to see who's out there.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed with Baird, and you know, because of it seemed like historically what their investment advisors would dump the stocks that their individual clients didn't have, and we ended up with a lot of stocks that became bankrupt or whatever, and we're still going through that process with Baird to get the money back for some of those. So if it's not PFM, if it's not Baird, I don't know who else is out there yet, but those are some.
And is there anything in their contract that if they don't perform, we get any of their fees back at all, or that's just?
We do
It
not
is what
have
it
that,
is.
but that would be an interesting, yeah.
So are these investments individual stocks within these investments?
Some of they could be they could be like a group of funds, they could be like a mutual fund, they could be. And some of, when we look at when we look at alternatives are longer term investments. They're like private equity almost. They're special investments to help boost or raise. They're held for the longer term. And we wanted to keep that, 20% in the FCC trust. They wanted to keep it no more than 20% of that allocation. That was supposed to help the performance as well. But they're not very liquid, so it's not something you would trade that often. But the other areas, the domestic equity, international equity, and fixed income, are traded on a more frequent basis. Any other question?
Director Baker, did you have a question?
I believe you answered. I wanted to know when the contract was up.
When you say it's up this
I
year,
have to agree with that comment.
you mean this calendar year?
This calendar, yeah.
Oh, okay.
What are their fees in here? Sorry if I'm asking too many questions. What are their fees?
For the quarter, you can see the net cash flows, the 50,
Okay.
the 52, that was for the particular quarter. And the amount since inception, that's not. Yeah, but I don't know if that includes all their fees, but I do get a statement every month, and it's a formula. It's based on the total asset value. So they get paid, obviously they get paid more if the asset value is higher.
Okay, but it's based on asset values, not performance.
Right.
Might look into that as an alternative as well. Any other questions about the OPEB report?
Well, that was the FCC, and then
I'm sorry, the FCC.
We'll just quickly flip to the page, and you can see the same information for the OPEB trust. You can see the total value is, $48,643,092. We have a graphical pie chart at the bottom below that. Performance summary, you can see very similar performance versus benchmark. And you can see the beginning and ending value in the lower right-hand quadrant.
Same comments and questions, I think. Right.
Both performing below expectation.
Anything else on this financial performance report?
So this fund or this trust is not being used at all. There's no expense from it, right? Just being invested. Right?
Yeah, this one is just, we are not taking anything out. We do not take anything out. We add to it when we have the opportunity.
You're talking about which?
The OPEB.
Thank you.
And the other one too. Both.
No, the FCC trust, we do take out. Now, we did take out funding in July. So the FCC trust, there was $4.8 million was taken out in July for scholarships and for a variety of different things. We have a funding that we go through each year.
I think we're limited to 4% per year as the maximum amount.
Yeah, we look at the past 5 years, we look at the 20 quarters, and what we do is we take the average of the 20 quarters and we multiply it by 4.5%, I believe it is. And we expect an average rate of return of 6%. So in theory, it's going to grow, it's going to continue to grow, but the market has the last couple of years has gone down.
But we do not make new cash contributions to the FCC fund. That was the result of selling spectrum back to the FCC. And there is a whole structure around that money that defines what it can be used for and how much we can take out on an annual basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next is community education update. Is Sadiq here? There he is.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So I had shared and recorded.
Need you to be a little louder, please.
Oh, yeah, I had shared and recorded. I'm very loud. Good. With the board, the updates in that report were basically out of the issues that were raised to the board back in spring. Based on those issues, we went ahead and set up a subcommittee or working group, and the chart that is being displayed now is the document that we prepared for the working group. You can see very clearly that communication was categorized as one of the issues that were raised, and what we have been doing now is to use our traditional CDM model, the collaborative decision model, to meet with teams in the community education group. The other item there is enrollment growth. To date, we have, as of yesterday, the report showed that we had 1,359 new students compared to last fall. So we have significant growth in terms of students. We also set up these work teams, and each work team took a category of the issues. We have an onboarding work team, web pages web team, team, testing, campus hubs, and transition to post-secondary education work team. So those are the three highlights here. We continue to work with faculty and other stakeholders within the college to improve on the issues that were raised. Are there any specific questions?
Director Baker.
Well, one, we've heard a lot about this issue, so I was very excited to see a detailed sort of breakdown for the board. And I guess, I just want to know, is this something we're gonna sort of see each month to see the progress of how we're doing? Yeah, I'm waiting
Yes.
for a nod here.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes, okay, because obviously, some of these are works in progress, and this was, certainly something that our college community was involved in a lot of controversy over. So just want to make sure that we continue to monitor as a board. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Director Burris.
I'm just gonna ask a very direct question. We're not canceling any classes this semester, correct?
Yes.
We are canceling classes?
We
or
are
we're
not. You said we are not. I said, yes,
All right.
we are not. Yes,
Just wanted to ask that question.
yes.
That's it.
Any other questions on this topic? Going
Thank you.
once, going twice. Thank you. Next is the annual grants report. Dr. Mannion.
I'm sick of myself at this
I-
point. We should have one of these little nameplates or something. Here,
I think we're gonna get you just hats. And put on a separate hat, although what you're gonna talk about.
So, hi again.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. So good to see you all. You all received a prepared video by Dr. Jennifer McCullough, our Director of Quality Planning and Assessment, and our Manager of Sponsored Projects, commonly referred to as grants, is Stephanie Townsend. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to be with us today. So I am here to see if there's any really high level questions you might have. Otherwise, if you have anything specific you're interested in, or any grants that you'd like to know more about, if you could just let Beth know, and we can definitely get you more details or either documentation or however you'd like to look at those. So with that, I tentatively and politely ask you if you have questions. Be kind. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so I'll give this one, I'll toss this one up in the air.
Thank you.
Or whatever, and because what I got was that we received most like federal grants through WTCS, okay, through the system in some way, shape or form. So I'm wondering, because there are things where, Department of Transportation will have grants for trucking programs, something that we may have that everybody else doesn't have. Or, stuff around healthcare that might come out of Health and Human Services or whatever that isn't necessarily something WTCS does, or maybe, do we find ourselves in competition? So my question is, what do we do? And obviously, this would be something we could get this information next month or sent to us. But I'm curious because there are a lot of federal opportunities, and I'm very specifically, there's going to be tens of millions of dollars coming into this state for infrastructure. And part of that will involve training. And I really want MATC to be in that. There's going to be a lot coming into the greater Milwaukee area. That's all federal funded. And there's already some things happening around, around housing in particular right now. So how do we do that? What's our path? I can't imagine we do all of that through WTCS. So.
No, and I think some come through the grants council. Right?
Yes. So a lot of times someone will reach out, an industry partner or a different partner in a different way, but they come through with an idea, either for us to write a grant or to participate in a grant via sub-awardee of their grant. And we have a grants council now that has a form that's filled out that is very specific about how would this serve our students, our community, what are our obligations to it, to make sure that people aren't signing off on grants or getting involved. So we kind of streamline that process now. And it's been working very, very well. I think Dr. Mikule talked about it a little bit in the intro of the video, that we now have a streamlined process for that. Some things come through Dr. Martin's office where partners will reach out to her and let us know about various things. So we can get you more details about how we find those, but once they arrive, they have that, go through that council. And I think there's even one federal one that she talked about that's currently going on. So there's other opportunities like that. So.
I think it's an opportunity for us. I mean, knowing that this is coming in, just to let people know that we are open to looking at these opportunities and running through the council so that we make sure that everybody knows about it. We're all on the same page on what we're going to do about it, but it's a great opportunity. So I appreciate it.
Are there grants available for the high-speed internet build out
Yes.
for training? Are there grants available for the thousands of miles of electricity transit that's being planned?
So I'm sure there are.
Okay.
In terms of whether or not they're a match and whether or not we have the infrastructure to support them and what they would mean for us, and they fit in with the faculty program, the program plans that they have and the curriculum, that kind of stuff. That's where those kind of details, but we definitely put those two on the list for Stephanie to look at and kind of pay attention to. And
I'm trying to remember the name of the company. I think it's owned by We Energies now, American Transmission Service or System, which brings electricity from the Dakotas and Minneapolis or Minnesota to Wisconsin. Is someone that could probably tell us where this is going to occur and how many people might be needed to do it and what they would have to be trained in, and they're a few blocks away. The broadband initiative is more complicated because every technical college has an area where that build out needs to occur. And I don't know what resources most of them have, but I've seen press reports indicating that municipalities have been trying to do this on their own across the state, and that they can't find people to do it. So again, there may be a reason to talk with WTCS about developing a program for that multiple colleges could offer. I don't know if we do now at all or not. But my question really comes down to this is how do we have a systematic way of figuring out what grants are out there that could relate to what we're doing. Or when we're outside of the WTCS process, is it random? Is it just we stumble across it, or is there an organized effort to find these things?
So it seems like, well, in terms of public funding, so so grants is just the public funding and
Yeah.
the private is separate. So it seems to be that it's been brought to us as well as, they're announced. Grants are announced constantly. We're on all of those server lists, et cetera. So we're identified as a potential partner right away. And then we have that process again. Faculty are very active in bringing the grants, bringing the ideas to the Grants Council as well. But if there's a more formal way that they're doing it beyond that, I'm not 100% sure. So I want to make sure we just put that on the list for follow-up.
Director.
Yeah, sometimes it helps if we have like a person, their job to look for the grants. So like full time,
Sure,
almost,
full-time.
keep looking for the grants and because it's worth it if you have something like that. If you wait until the grant comes to you, because there's so many, like what you said, so many websites, so many servers, lists can be around. And even part-time, but at least somebody, their job will be to look around and present it to a committee and see if this really, we can accommodate
Sure.
that grant.
Director Baker.
And don't you love this after you told us, okay, this is not
I am-
my specialty, we're
Yeah,
gonna like,
yeah. Just taking notes.
Yeah, so in particular, the federal funding, very often our federal representatives' offices are, very helpful on, and because we know that this infrastructure money is coming to the state, then, our congresswoman here and our two federal senators' offices should be able to help us sort of sort through what is coming, where is it coming, that broadband is a part of that, weatherization's a part of it, lead pipe removal's a part of, there's a number of things that we'll hear here. And then there are some things which I believe we're now starting to see in the manufacturing community. So for instance, Ingeteam, which is a company that's in the Menominee Valley and has been making wind turbines, just got a federal contract for charging stations, which I now have an electric car, so I'm super excited about. But I don't know, how do people need training for that? And so I think we're going to be seeing more of this sort of thing, that it seems to me MATC is well poised to be the trainer of record on any of it, but we may just have to have more communication with our federal folks about.
Yes.
Just let me add to that. The state of Wisconsin submitted a plan to, it's probably the Department of Transportation, Federal Department of Transportation, to build out an EV charging system in Wisconsin. And they're going to put a charging station every 50 miles along all of the interstate highways and most of the east-west major highways that are not interstate highways. And one of the things that was part of that submission was workforce development. And I believe the draft that I saw had about 3 lines in it. They had not thought about it very well, but it was approved, and the construction is supposed to start in January of 2024. So that might be something to look into with some urgency. Just 1 second, Dr. Martin.
Well, I just would like to say, Director Baker, that I've been talking with Laura Bray, and we recognize that we probably need to have more of a presence with some of our representatives so that we can understand some of these federal opportunities that are going to come our way. So we're definitely going to follow up on that and take advantage of that. And I mean, we have some really good partners too, like Employ Milwaukee and others who are really on top of some of this because of the workforce development piece. We used to have a system here where we would actually have somebody who did what you suggested, is go out and look at all these federal grants. And then what happens is we brought them all in, we wrote quite a few. We spent a lot of time and energy that didn't pan out. So it seems to work out better coming through the grants council and through our partners. That seems to be where the sweet spot is that when we get our partners saying, it'd be really great if, you could be a partner on this and help us with this, especially the workforce development piece, because it's just what you said. It's like we are the arm that can educate and train, right? And so they don't have that expertise like we do. So I think that we could, really probably talk to more of our partners and do that federal presence, which would really help us.
Okay.
One of them could be a good opportunity about solar energy. Now it's really spreading and they're waiting for approval from legislation and then gonna be spread. I don't know if we have any opportunity to be part of it too.
I don't either.
We still have our solar farms, so hopefully. We still got those opportunities. We do.
Well, thank you very much. And this
Thank you.
really, it's great that you guys are so engaged and with such great ideas, and definitely bring these back to Stephanie and her team. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's it for me tonight.
Annual foundation report.
And Beth, could you, thank you. Good evening. So I can speak a little bit to that in part because we think of the same way in terms of how do we look for private funding that can help advance the things that are here. Both because I play a legislative role when meeting with members of Congress, often it's this mix between these are the strategic priorities articulated in our plan where we're trying to focus. And then how does that align with the things that might be available, both private or public? So we both I've been a member of the Grants Council since it started. A lot of those conversations really are what's the strategic plan of the college and how do we search out things that align versus just what's the funding and how do we fit into that. So that really is the kind of like, we really do rely on both at the foundation. And I know after partnering with the grants department for so many years, that is the driver, is what is the strategic objectives of the college and how do we look for funding for that. So I'll just give you a couple of highlights. I'm excited to share with you the accomplishments of the last year, but also kind of look back a little bit in the past. Can you go back a little? Sorry, just zooming right ahead. The MATC Foundation is the philanthropic arm of the college. And last week we celebrated our 44th year doing just that. And we really focus on galvanizing Milwaukee civic leaders, employers, alumni, and more to promote economic opportunities for our students. So there's a number of different kind of programs that we put into place in partnership with the college, but in partnership with those that really want to invest in the future of our students. Next. So the board of directors is a group of 18 people right now. We've actually grown that. I believe when I first started, it was about 13 or 14. Our bylaws allow for up to 24, and we're kind of slowly growing that to get us closer that we have more people that are involved. The officers are listed here, and pictured here are two individuals. One is Chantel Bird, who you should been able to watch her profile. She is the Vice President of Shared Services for Veolia North America, has family members who have been students here at MATC. And then she's the new board chair. Dave Megna is the newest officer. He's been on the board for a little bit of time. He is an MATC alum, and he was just named as one of the 2003 notable alumni by the Biz Times, and is extremely proud of what MATC did for him personally while he was a working father working at We Energies and kind of trying to figure out how to make his way up there, and now is vice president of Wisconsin Field Operations and is a great partner. Next. So that board is a diverse set of leaders in our community in multiple different ways. They are so passionate about MATC, as you saw Julie talk about tonight, and the foundation's ability to support student success. So the primary roles of that group of people is to raise awareness for MATC, to be ambassadors for the college, but also for the foundation. They open lots of doors by just
knocking on, literally on their neighbors' doors and talk about the amazingness that happens here at the college and how the foundation is trying to help elevate a lot of things that are going on here. We have about excess of $30 million in assets. So it's a really important role that they play also to ensure that those are protected, that they're stewarded, and really that the compliance oversight they do, and that making sure systems and processes are in place, that they instill confidence for current and future donors. My role is that I serve as the executive director of that nonprofit, in addition to being vice president of college advancement and marketing communications. And my background has been in nonprofit management for many years. Go ahead. So to talk about what we've been able to accomplish, this is just to give you a sense of fundraising over since fiscal year 2010. And it's pretty remarkable. And like Julie had mentioned, 7 years, in the last 7 years, the growth has been amazing, and it's 28.2 million. And that's compared to the previous 7 years, which was just 4 million. And I really do think people are trusting in the results that we're being able to show. So all of our donors really ask for regular communications, whether it's through very specific, like how is it that you're investing our funding? But so we've increased the number of repeat donors that are coming back, and we're really excited that people are trusting in the foundation as the avenue to support students. Next. So with more money that we've been able to raise comes more money invested in our students. So with that, you'll see a little bit of a lag. So, last year we got a $6 million gift from Frederick Hospital that will be spent. We received it in 1 year, but it's spent over 20. So there's a little lag that you see in terms of funds raised and funds put out. But as a whole, since the launch of the Promise, which really was the thing that got us both as a college, but also as a foundation looking at scholarships differently, we've increased the amount of scholarship awards by more than 300% since that time. And last year, the record-breaking year was that we broke the record on how many students served and how much given. And we hope to even surpass that again this year, where we're trending, where it might even be as much as $3 million provided to students, which is unbelievable. Next. We also do have an emergency grant fund. That's the MATC Student Emergency Assistant Grant. And we've been able to, that started in fiscal year 2015. And it's a quick turnaround help to students who face urgent financial needs. This fund is done partly through the Wisconsin Technical College system and then also private donations. And this captures both of those funds. Next. So I'm going to give you 3 little shout outs or 3 little things to think about in terms of impact. This is when donors ask us, what are you doing with our money? In the case of the Ellen and Joe Shakota program, which started last year, I think we announced it at this meeting last year that we were able to secure a multi-million-dollar investment that was based upon creating a $7.5 million fund over time, and that every donation would be matched 2 to 1. So we are $1.6 million raised to date to a $2.5 million goal. And the great way about the way this is structured is every time we raise or people donate 500,000, we are able to then get $1 million from the Dakotas and then put it right into work with students. So because of that structure, we were very quickly able to raise funding because partners came on board and immediately serve 372 students and have 158. And now that number, Dr. Merton, did she say 164, 170? Since we actually went to print on this, it's grown because we had a couple of students who, so it's unbelievable when you think about the turnaround that quickly to invest in students with full ride scholarships. This is the kind of results we're able to achieve. Next slide. So the other major program and the largest program that we, in addition to that we raise money for, is that MATC Promise. And so this is free tuition for up to 75 credits. And what's different about this is students can take as long as it takes them to complete, as long as they continue to meet those eligibility criteria. And so we've had
650 grads since that started. You see that it's overwhelmingly students of color, $3 million in scholarship awarded. And then because of the Promise program, we can point to almost 3,400 FTEs that are directly linked to that program. Next slide. In addition to scholarships, there are several times where people make investments in programs, in staff. They might fund equipment, in other resources that we might not be able to resource on our own. And so I used an example of what we call MATC Drive. It was about a $4 million investment to expand and strengthen the auto program. And there was many people in the auto industry led by Tom Hervis, who is a Milwaukee native and very proud supporter of MATC. And since the time that we started that program, these are the increases in enrollment, students of color, credentials received. And so that has largely been because of the 3-person staff that's funded through that grant that can provide extreme wraparound support to those students, which is just fantastic. Next. And so these are other programmatic investments I just wanted to call out. And quite honestly, I wanted to put their names up there to thank them because Johnson Controls, Northwestern Mutual, We Energies, even the band Metallica, Freighted Health, PepsiCo, Molson Coors, Herb Cole Philanthropies, Bader Philanthropies, Greater Milwaukee Foundation, and many more have found in the MATC Foundation a very trusted partner to then work with them and to invest in our students and in their success in a major way. So that is my report. The last but not least, I have 2 asks. One is take a look at matc.edu news. We have so many profiles of students, especially scholarship award winners, that are just absolutely heartbreaking, wonderful stories of students overcoming both adversity, or they talk about how meaningful MATC has been to their lives and to their future, their careers. And then I also invite you to tell other people about what the foundation is doing and to encourage people to give. Or even just to open a door and say, hey, look at this story. Again, we have this 2-to-1 match. This is a rarity to have a full ride scholarship with a 2-to-1 match. And so if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great work. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next agenda item, is there any new business? Not tonight. Future events, next board meeting is September 26th at 4:30 p.m. in this very room. Be there or be square,
Or you could be squaring.
either way. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
It's okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Seth, there's a place on the back of the one thing for the FCC where it asks for a number. Will you put that in?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You'll put that number in for us? Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have a packet for me to sign?
Yes, Mark. I'm sorry.
Jesus.
It's underneath, right there. You'll work.
Can you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you want to.
You want to sit next to each other? We can pass these back and forth.
Here, there's nobody.
I read it all over your face. I was like.
Okay, we can talk about that.
And I'll make sure as well.
Oh, I didn't want to be the bad guy.
Oh, I didn't mention you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes, alcohol. I'm not in the non.
That's okay.
Second.
Or just hope somebody sees it. That's been what
Even more hours.
Yeah, try to get them to understand that they can do it.